Welcome back to the Chelsweets Kitchen. Today we're making this super fun pink candy drip cake. I wanted the cake layers to match the design of the cake, so I colored my vanilla layer cake recipe pink with a bit of gel food coloring. I then used this super delicious strawberry jam. I'm using about, I would say, a quarter of a cup of strawberry jam here, and I added it to about 2 cups of frosting. So I folded this together with a spatula, and then I added this between each of my cake layers. So I spread about 1/3 of the mixture between each cake layer, and I used my large offset spatula to get it nice and even as I stacked my cake. To make things really fun, I then added a layer of just regular vanilla buttercream on top of this. I thought it would look really beautiful when we cut into the cake, but sadly the strawberry jam actually wasn't that different in color. So if you're going to do this, I would actually recommend adding a bit of coloring to your strawberry buttercream just so you can see the difference of the two frostings. Another note is that I chilled the cake between adding each layer of frosting, and that just helps them stay separate, which ironically wasn't necessary because you can't even tell that there were 2 different types of frosting inside the cake. Anyways, those are my tips if you want to recreate this cake. So once my layers were stacked, I added a thin crumb coat, and I then chilled the cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes until the frosting was firm to the touch. Next, I added on my second, thicker layer of frosting, just using some regular vanilla buttercream. If you guys want the recipe for my layer cake or for my buttercream, both are up on chelsweets.com. They're super easy to make. So like I was mentioning earlier, we're decorating this cake with a bunch of different shades of pink buttercream. There actually is a great story behind the design of this cake. So Instagram reached out to me and they wanted me to create a pink drip cake for a shoot that they were going to use as a testimonial to help explain to people how IGTV is now going to be kind of flowing into their feed, or at least that's my understanding of it. So I made these 2 cakes and I had tons of leftover buttercream and pink candy, and I just felt like it was wrong to not do something with them. So I decided to recreate the cake, not to look quite the same, but to have a similar look for you guys and to put all that candy to use. So I spread out those different shades of buttercream on the sides of my cake to create kind of a watercolor look. It really is a pretty swirled pastel-y vibe, and I love the way it looks. Then to dress the cake up a bit more, I'm adding on a pink drip. So to make my colorful drips, I like to use a white chocolate ganache that I add a little bit of gel food coloring to color it. So if you guys want to see a more in-depth tutorial on how I make my colorful drip recipe, you can click the link in the upper right corner. Or if you Google colorful drips, my recipe will be the very first thing to pop up. So I like to use a squirt bottle to add my drips onto my cake. It's just a lot easier and feels a lot more natural to me than using a spoon. But if you don't have a squirt bottle, you can totally use a spoon as well. So I'm working my way slowly around the cake. As you saw in the beginning, I did a test drip to make sure that my ganache was the right temperature. And then I went to town adding this all the way around the cake. If you want to learn more tips and tricks about how to make the perfect drip cake, I also have a tutorial on that, and you can click the link in the upper right corner. So next I added some swirls on top of the cake with some leftover ganache, and then I added a ring of buttercream. So this frosting kind of acts as the perfect base for the wreath of candy that I wanted to make on top of this cake. So once I had piped all of that frosting on, I started adding my candy into it. I started with my biggest candies and worked my way down to my smallest. So I started with some pink gumballs, then I added some sour pink gumdrops and some sour ropes. I got all of my candy from Dylan's Candy Bar, which I live really close to here in New York City, and it has a great section of candy by color, which is perfect for this kind of a cake. But if you don't have those where you live, Party City actually has a lot of colorful candy as well. Or if you're lucky and you live near your own candy shop, I'm sure you'll find some great candies there. So once I felt like I had fit as much candy as I could on top of this cake, I decided it was time to cut into it. So the cut this time was actually a little bit anticlimactic because I was really expecting that strawberry buttercream to be a bit more colorful. But nonetheless, it was still delicious, and you can kind of see the difference between the 2 layers of frosting. But no matter what, at the end of the day, taste is most important, and I'm happy to report that this cake tasted delicious. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know what tutorials you'd like to see next, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon.